Rooster.
Hello and welcome everybody to New Earth Consciousness. Tanya here with Erika Ristovski, and she's in Spain, and she is a psychic healer, uh, spiritual life coach, medium, and her website is eraristovski.com. And I'm really excited that you're here, Erica, because we're gonna get into some really interesting topics, especially when it comes to, other dimensions, extraterrestrials, things like this. Um, so thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. So excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah. So you, let's dive into your background a little bit. You grew up in the Catholic Church, and then you started noticing that, you were having maybe experiences that most people don't, at least don't talk about. And I'm just curious about that journey there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Colombia in a very, very Catholic environment. My father was very religious. And of course, it took me many years to understand what was happening and understand the language around the things that I was experiencing. I did not know at the time what it was, but basically, I was having out-of-body experiences. I was able to see airbounds, other physical beings, multidimensional beings, and all of the above. And it was really interesting because that created my character. Like I became like a very introverted, shy person because I understood from very early on that what I was experiencing was not the norm. So I always had that sense of wrongness, that there was something odd and wrong with me, that that my way of experiencing the world wasn't normal. And it took me many years, and that just brought up a memory. I was in second grade, and my best friend was a little girl, and I just told her one day with like so much enthusiasm, like, I can read people. As far as I remember
Yeah.
about my abilities that early on, that of course I didn't understand at the time, but basically I was reading energy fields that time too.
Yeah. Wow. And what was her response?
I don't even remember. She just laughed it out, like, yeah, you
Yeah.
weirdo, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, right, right. Too funny. Anyway, so interesting. So I'm curious, like, at what point did you sort of, well, not sort of, at what point did you just come out of the closet, the spiritual closet, so to speak? Like, at what point did you start being more open about your abilities and actually using your gifts to support people in their own spiritual journeys?
That is a great question. I actually remember it's different timelines that added up. At 12, I started questioning everything. I just had so much questions, and the Catholic Church and their explanations didn't make sense to me. Then at 17, I moved to another town, no, around 16. And then I got to meet other people like Gnostics, astrologists, esoterics, like with different points of view. And was lucky enough to join a retreat, spiritual retreat, and the things that they talk about and what they describe what mediums do. I was like, oh, this is who I am. I am a medium. I'm a person that can see beyond the veil, that I can connect to non-physical realities, and I'm that bridge I can communicate to. So I started adding language and understanding, and some things resonated in my journey and some things not. And at 18, I went full blown into dedicating my life and my time to understanding and to, in a way, controlling my untamed gifts, because for a period of my life, I was afraid of going to sleep. It was very intense. I will see entities, things communicating with me, physical sensations that I was having. And it was very, very challenging because nobody around me, other than thinking that I was possessed, had any understanding around the things that I was experiencing. So it was challenging. And at some point in my life, I wanted to take my life. And it was just a series of things. But from there, I always been in the spiritual realm for about 20 years or more. And I had a different profession. I was an exhibiting artist. I'm very, very creative, and apparently I was successful, but I didn't feel fulfilled. So when my son was born with a congenital heart defect, that shook my world like nothing has ever
Mm,
shook my work,
yeah.
my world. And then I was like, and I'm not even happy with what I do. I had that realization, and I'm like, I knew that I wasn't meant to do that. I knew that I was not here for that experience. I was for something more. So I had to find what more. And then I started hiring mentors and support to coaches to help me tell me, right? You tell me. But it didn't come like as an explanation. It come like going in and finding out what brought me joy and what light me up. And that was that work that I was doing behind the scenes. Very little people knew about that. And I was so curious. And I study psychographic writing. I started remote healing with people from Brazil. I was doing all this conference and traveling from state to state, and I love that so much. And I was like, this is it. But at the time, I didn't understand how I could live from that.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's all been a experimental journey for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. So, yeah, and that's intense. Oh my gosh, to have your child have to go through such difficulty, I know really is a mother's worst nightmare for sure. Um,
Mhm.
wow. So it's been, I mean, to me, it sounds like a quite a initiatory journey. You know, I feel like those who are very intentional about walking the spiritual path. My experience has been it's like it's not a cakewalk. It's not, it's not unicorns and rainbows. It's, it's very, you kind of it can be very, very challenging. And when you start to wake up to these other realities, yeah, it can be very disorienting. At least I think from what I hear from other people and even my own experience, it's kind of like they're when the veils get, are lifted and you start to see beyond the veil, it can be very, it can be frightening. It could be like, whoa, what's happening to me? Am I losing my mind? And so I'm curious for you, like at what point were you able to, or at least maybe what was the process for you to be able to ground maybe or put everything into a clear context so that it wasn't alarming or disconcerting?
Mhm. So
Yeah.
one powerful thing that I learned in my teens was sovereignty and free will. That I have the power to kind of in a way mold my gifts and to what extent I have them. And I remember other adults will comment that I was too open, that I was just like an open channel,
Mhm.
that I have the faculty to close it a bit myself so that it wasn't all because if you're young, you don't have much understanding, right? And you're new to many things, and it's like you need to walk a path, and the more you understand and the more you raise your vibration, you open to a different paradigm. You open to more understanding. You start understanding things and not on a rational level, not on a physical level, but very metaphysical, spiritual, and energetic level, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
So it was good that I kind of like closed down a little bit that, let's call it an openness, because it was so insane to go to sleep. I was afraid of going to sleep for so many years
Mhm.
as a teenager. And doing that and feeling like I was in control was life changing for me. You
Mhm.
know, that victim mentality that I used to have before that it was like, oh, this is happening to me. And I'm just like a puppet. I have no control. And these entities or these beings can do to me whatever they want. And it was very disempowering.
Mhm.
Uh, mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I'd like to talk about your experience with extraterrestrials because I think this is a really interesting subject and I think people have different perspectives on what they are. Are they good? Are they bad? Dr. Stephen Greer tends to share that, oh, they're positive and they're here to help humanity. And then you hear from other people's perspectives that, oh, they're demonic, or David Icke talks about the reptilians, and uh and so I think that it's definitely, we're in this age of disclosure, I guess, apparently, right? I think Trump has signed off on releasing the UFO files and whatnot. And Sorry for the beep there. Let me turn that off. And so I know, I've had, a couple of experiences with extraterrestrials, not in the third dimension, but more in an astral realm sort of experience in a dream state. I'm curious for you, like, what has your personal experience been?
So my personal experience was that I was aware of their existence, but I was never interested in that subject, other than I had this memory as a kid that in Colombia we have this belief El Coco is like the boogeyman, and if you're a
Mm,
bad child, then you do something bad, the Coco is gonna get you.
mm,
And I wasn't afraid of that. I was afraid of, but literally afraid of aliens grabbing me at night. Like I had that fear, but in my time, I didn't remember anybody talking about them much. I was not exposed to that information. And moving forward to when I started with my practice and channeling more seriously, I connected to what we call the positive ETs that are here to support us, to give us assistance and all of that. And also negative ones, because I believe in a world, because it's not just this matrix that is full of polarities and contracts. The whole universe has all kinds of forces, good, bad, and in between. And everything is just is, right? Like they have their agendas and their way of being, and that just is. It's not good, bad, or wrong, it's just is. So I experienced so many things in my life that nothing really shocks me. And moving forward, I had a series of events. That's about 3, 4 years back. Negative events out of the blue, right and left, in all directions, that it was overwhelming. And encountering negative people, negative situations, like so much so that I was like, wait a minute, I'm not a negative person like that. I mean, of course, I'm human and I have a negative thought here and there, but it's not
yeah.
like that. It was like vomiting negativity constently. And I was like, what
Yeah.
is going on?
Wow.
And I was not in a good state. I also noticed that on and off, I was not as connected to my intuition. I lived like this my entire life, so I can know when
Hmm.
I'm not really attuned.
Hmm.
And then I started talking to some spiritual friends, and I'm like, I'm feeling like this. And of course, I was part of different groups, and many mentors don't feel, I don't know, open to talk about these things. That I have direct questions about it, and they're like, no, no, it's this. And I knew that it was not entity involvement, because I have practices that I do with this, and it's like it's not shaking up, it's not moving up, it's here.
Mm,
So a couple of friends, or maybe three friends in the same circle, recommended me to see the same person, hypnotherapist.
mm,
So I was like, okay, I'm just rock bottom, because I was in rock bottom, like didn't sleep. I was feeling really bad. I have this looping negative thoughts so intense that I was like, it's not like myself.
mhm,
So I go there, and she asked me like 2 minutes in, like, what's going on with you? And I was like, I just like this intense negativity that I don't know where it's coming from. And I started feeling like overwhelmed. And then she asked me like two things, and I was already induced. Long story forward, like I have glimpses and memories like being in a spaceship with other people that are also afraid, and their hands are something that it looks like a handcuff, but it's not physical. They're just like
mm,
still and not moving, but you don't see anything really holding them.
mhm,
And it's like a circle, and you see like many beds, like kind of not completely vertical, not horizontal, like in a 45-degree
mm,
angle. And it was interesting. And then I started having so much fear, crying, and all these memories, all these images came through that I was not prepared. I
mm,
expected all kinds of things to go with that session, but when that came up, I was not prepared. That I was adopted, she started asking since when, since I was 5. And it was very, very intense for me to digest all of that information. And it resonated, like it felt true. It felt true to my body. My body was responding. The trauma was there. My cellular memory was so constricted as I was articulating what I was seeing. It was really hard for me. I was crying. It was insane. It was very insane. And I went to home in such a state, and that repeated. And then she found out, because she was also a healer, that I have implants. And when she found the places, I couldn't believe, because I have a lot of issues in these areas. One was my heart and one was my head. And in my heart, I had done throughout my life series of checks, so many extensive checks, because it shows up sometimes that I already have a heart attack. It shows like differently, like irregular, but like somehow my heart still functions and I'm not dead.
Mm.
And I have several episodes of just like fainting and losing my consciousness and collapsing on the floor out of the blue. I have many episodes like that in my life. And the headaches, like extreme headaches, and also like a feeling like there is like little ants living inside my brain, like
Mm.
that kind of sensation. And the looping negativity that is like no shower, no clearing, no nothing can take it away from you. It was insane. Like, this is not me, like get it off of me, please. And it was not possible. So there was some things that I started to put together, and I did several sessions to clear and remove the potency of the implants, because once you have them there, they're there, but they just lose they're not active.
Mm.
It was a journey. I
Yeah.
took about 5 months of I was feeling like completely devastated with that information, digesting it and recovering myself from that, really supporting my body to recover from that trauma, because it was a lot of trauma in my body.
Mhm.
And I could totally see the difference when I was already feeling like in my power, in my body. Again, I started to see things differently. Like, when you go to those electronic stores and you see those amazing big TVs that are so clear that it feels like you're right there,
Mm.
that is
Mm.
so vivid.
Mhm.
That's how I started experiencing the world, like more vivid. I started seeing things differently. Like, I started reading subtle energies with more accuracy. I
Mm.
was like, whoa, like what just happened to me? Like, I was not experiencing myself like that when I had all those implants and that control, because in my awareness that I have encountered several clients and kids and teens that are experiencing this negativity with these ETs.
Mhm.
And they pick particular people depending on their frequency, because it supports their agendas, right?
Mhm.
And they want to utilize these people for perpetrating their agendas.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. And so these implants, are they physical or more energetic, or are they both? I mean,
They're both.
they're both. Yeah.
Mhm.
Fascinating. Yeah, yeah, that's so intense. And so what was I don't know, I guess maybe in a nutshell, if you could describe like what did it take to um, disengage from the implants, or turn, if you could turn them off, or like what was it exactly? What was the process?
Yeah, the process for me, well, I'm a Reiki master. I do quantum healing. I do many other methodologies. And for me was awareness and knowing the instant moment that they're acting up, that I'm acting not like myself, that I feel depressed all of a sudden, or like these looping negative thoughts will come up
Yeah.
and just require me to be more vigilant of my state of mind and my emotional state, more vigilance. And the moment that I was feeling them, like I would really spend, like, sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it was an entire hour, that I just doing processes and processes with myself to mitigate this density.
Yeah.
And over time, I noticed that it got weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, to the point that it disengages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, fascinating. And so let's dive into the topic of multidimensionality, because I think that um, part of the awakening process for some is this realization of like, oh, there are more than just this dimension,
Mhm.
and and maybe talk about like, yeah, why, how that has an impact on someone's identity and how does one navigate their life after maybe discovering like, oh, I'm multidimensional. I'm not just, a human in this on this earth. There's more to me.
Mhm. Well, that is a complex thing for people to understand, but just imagining that just like radio signals that we don't see them, they're not physical, they're not visible to the naked eye. There's a lot of information surrounding us. There's like fields and fields and fields coexisting, overlaying one over another. And it's like, it's for me, I experience it like multiple realities. For example, right now, when you are physically sitting, there are like multiple realities happen simultaneously. You experience that more potently when you go to places that had like energetic vortices, like Sedona, for example. I had an experience when I was there that I was just there, physically step into something, and I started immediately, like it felt like I dropped into, let's say, another signal
Mhm,
overlay.
mhm,
Like when you look into, I'm trying to come up with simple ways to make this statement. Think about a fabric, a piece of fabric, and you have a magnifying glass, and then you look into the fabric, and then you from the far, it just looks like a solid piece, like one piece, one color. But
mhm,
the closer you look, you start seeing all the little strands like overlay one upon another, and it's like it's sewn together that makes it whole. Multiple realities for me is something similarly. It requires you like a radio signal tuning in. So for me, having this natural ability, I was just there and I just like a step into another reality. And there were other beings that lived in the rock. And for me, this was like mind blowing. Like, how could they possibly live in the rock? But they have consciousness, they have a way of operating, they have a system, they have communities, they have all this situation going on. And I'm like, oh, and my body is buzzing and all of these things and I'm like, yeah, they're there, we're there, like it's all connected, so we live with other beings simultaneously, and that's why we can connect to certain multidimensional beings like ETs, ascended masters, angels, all of the above, because we can, for a moment, connect, tune in to that reality, into that dimension that they're in, and just have a little strength of connection, that entrainment, and then you can communicate and connect. And it's the same for everyone. It's just a matter of really deciding where to focus. And for life too, it's like where you focus on in your life, that's how life manifests. But I don't want people to get too concerned about this multidimensionality because it's very complex. Like we can exist simultaneously in other dimensions and in other realities at the same time. And think about when you think about, for example, angels, that many people, I mean, nowadays more common to believe in angels and angel communication, angel healing, all of that. So one thing, let's say one of the most known is Archangel Michael. So how he can support multitude of people at the same time in multiple locations in different parts of the globe is because that exists in multiple layers of the same plane,
mhm,
but for one point of consciousness, like let's call it, like for us, we like the nomadic, and then we have all these strands that are the individualized souls connecting and are part of that whole. And it's the same, like you are part of a point, and then you can be in multiple places simultaneously at the same time. So it's like operating like that. And I hope that's a little, I don't know, a
mhm.
little easier to understand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's, we live in a very holographic universe,
Mhm.
right? And so these other dimensions, I feel like for some people, or at least for myself, most I guess some people can access those dimensions through meditation. For me, it's always in my dream life, where it's like you have a dream that you're like, how did I come up with that? Right? Like how is that you just kind of have this knowing of oh yeah, I have a sense of being in a different environment, planetary sphere where I have a certain role and all those things. And so it is, um, I think that like Dolores Cannon's work, she really
Yeah.
discovered a lot in going deeper with hypnotherapy and finding this, like you said, people tuning into this frequency where it's like, oh wow, like there's a whole nother world that's available. And I think at least for me personally, like I don't really fully understand how the reason why these veils are maybe thinning other than, it's part of us remembering, right, who we really are and what is the point of being here now and what is our purpose. And so um yeah, it's all really interesting. And I feel like for me as a child, I just remember, gosh, for years of just feeling like longing for home, just right,
Mhm.
of just just this deep deep yearning of like that somehow this earth wasn't necessarily home. And for me um it's taken a lot of work to just finally feel like, okay, this is my home for now, like, just
Yeah.
really embracing being
Be
here,
here, be
right,
present.
and not longing for someplace else. But it is really interesting. I remember being put through a Q, QHHT, I think it's called. It's Dolores Cannon's process that she trained people in. And so anyway, this person was one of those practitioners and put me through hypnosis. And I remember um, making contact with this, starry home, this place that wasn't the earth, but this feeling of home. And my gosh, I mean, I just burst into tears out of just love and longing for this place. It was really it was surprising. It caught me by surprise, the degree of that, coming into contact with that feeling and emotion and letting it, kind of work itself through me, right? To let it go. And I think it was after that that I finally felt like, okay, that painful longing was finally, I was able to let go of it. But yeah, it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So
Many starseeds, indigos, souls experience that longing of like, this is not my home. When can I go back? How can this go fast, right? And just like skip,
yeah.
skip, skip, skip to move forward and just like go back. Yes, we have that. And 2 summers ago, I received this download with my divine team of this movement that is happening sometimes without our awareness
Mm.
of radical remembrance that we are, like myself, many other people are remembering if they have been abducted or they have been interfered with or any other way, they're remembering. And that we are also remembering and connecting more to that light body that has incredible intelligence because it's plugged in into the quantum field. And the quantum field is just information. So we can access our brilliance of other timelines, realities, and dimensions, and we can access more of ourselves, more of our authority over this experience because part of the agendas is to disempower us, to take our sovereignty away and to make us feel like, this is all hard. It's just really hard to live here, and all of these paradigms that are really repeating themselves, like with our parents and our ancestors. And there's a lot that is tied to the lineage too, that is very constricted for us. And then the more we dig in, and the more we clear, and the more we elevate our frequency, the more we're gonna be able to have these innate knowings that we all have because they're in the field. It just belongs to everyone, and we become more of us, more our authentic truth, our real selves, knowing that we can control the energy, and we can control, and we can be architects of our own life. And for me, this statement itself took me many years to really understand, especially when I was going through what I call these attacks, psychic attacks that I was experiencing. I experienced so many throughout my life, but now in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that was part of my boot camp. I was
Oh,
really
right.
learning and preparing myself for years for the work that I do now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious for yourself, being brought up in the Catholic Church. Um, what is, what is your connection with Christ or Christ consciousness? Like, do you have an understanding or a feeling about that? Because I feel like in the church there seems to be a lot of beliefs around, the abilities that you have or I have or whatever other healers that, oh, that's that you're tampering with something that is, of the devil or, things like that. I'm curious for you, do you feel that Christ has you have a different perspective on Christ now? You know, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
how does that
I
land?
love that question because, yes, I think at least once I got to read the whole Bible because we had to study the Bible as a kid and all of that. And I was just like, inquisitive mind was like, help to know how that doesn't make any sense. So, in my understanding now and knowing what I know, is a lot of they work with a lot of symbolism. They work with a lot of hidden message. Like the information is there. It's just it's completely manipulated and twisted in a way that it is not pure, so that people become fearful and subservient. So that, for example, one of the teachings I remember was like, "Oh, Christ is the example, and he came here to wash our sins because we are sinners by
Mm,
nature."
mm,
Imagine.
mm,
So I remember that as a kid, I was channeling Virgin Mary, and I had these prayers that are not Catholic prayers because they're like prayers that you learn, from the heart. It's like you recite them,
mm.
like blah blah blah. You repeat them, you don't even know what those words mean.
Yeah.
But as a kid, my father would ask me like, "Would you do a prayer?" And I would don't even know, but I would channel a prayer, and it would come be different every time. And he would light up this huge white candle, and
Mm,
at the end, this figure will appear, either a flower or the figure of a female on profile or something like that. And there was something there. And the understanding of Christ was like, I understand now that it's a divine consciousness that came here to, a divine master that came here to give us this teaching, but we were not ready because what the religion did was to manipulate his teachings and to make us subservients and followers and take our power away. Because in his teachings, for example, one of the things that I remember was that he can heal people instantaneously. We all have that power. He could dispel entities and possessions and demonic beings instantly, and we all have that ability. And all of these things, and I was like, well, he wasn't diabolic and he was doing all of these things, right? Like he was the medium.
yeah, right.
So he was a healer. He was a medium. He disappeared for so many years. He went to meet himself because even though he came with all this knowing, with all this consciousness, he came into the physical vessel, and there is the forgetting of who you are, right? Like as we come to the physical, we have a forgetting temporarily of who we are, and he went so many years to study different things to remember who he was, to remember his gifts, to remember how to control and manipulate his energy, his consciousness, his thoughts.
Hmm. Yeah, beautiful. So I'm curious about what, how do you help women in their journey?
Mhm. I love that question.
Yeah.
In different ways. So people come to me from different walks of life, and I have the ability to tap into what is the point of their problem, what is the root cause, because it not always originates in this lifetime, to finding what trauma, what contract, what implants, or what positions do you have that are limiting your beingness? Because in my awareness, through my own experience and now working with so many people, we didn't come here to suffer. We didn't come here to hate life and to work jobs that we hate. The completely opposite.
Mm,
We came here to live enthusiastically and joyfully and contribute and collaborate with each other because we are meant to be in contribution with each other. So what I help people is to basically remember who they are because everybody's different. Find out what the mission is, but I don't tell them. I guide them to find out on their own,
hmm.
to find what their purpose is, to live in that purpose, and to fall in love with themselves like never before. Understand energy, understand that we're not victims to this paradigm, that we are more in control than we think. And most of my work is energetic. I'm not too much about talk. I do a lot of energetic processes that people feel in the body if they're kinesthetic, and they start noticing the changes and the shifts in their lives. And it's also about educating them, because if you want a permanent change, you also need to do inventory in your life, and move and change some things about you. Maybe it's your character, maybe it's identity work, maybe it's some things that need a little bit tweaking here and there for you to move to that timeline that you are content and
Yeah.
pleased with you, who you are, and in love with who you are.
Yeah. I love that you said that, that we're meant to, lead joyful, creative lives. I was speaking with a friend and we were talking about, that God, however you want to call it, the universe, the creator, um, desires us to prosper. And I think that, life here can, it's not it can feel, or what I notice people sort of falling into is kind of like, oh, well, this is just how it is. And you kind of just have to settle and, just sort of put up with whatever you feel that you're having to put up with, the grind, or just settling, for sort of the hum-ho, sort of mediocre, like this is just how it goes. And I just think it's really so beautiful that you help women to really just wake up and seize the opportunity of, like, this is your life and it actually matters. Like, I remember a spiritual teacher saying to me, and it kind of just hit me. It's like, this is your life, it's your life. Like, it is important. It does matter. Like, what do you want from it? It's not just, oh, it's not important, or, and I think a lot of women can fall into that of, because
Yeah,
the people pleasing or
yeah,
putting themselves last, or, they just
exactly.
kind of go along with it like, oh, it's okay, when really deep down it's not, so
No. And they know it because they have that desire within them. And it's like, I love that you brought that up, because part of the illusion, part of the programming is to make us believe that. And it starts in so many ways, in the education of children, in the different various religions, because it's not only Catholicism that limit us, and
Mhm.
all the things. So that if we can be curious and question everything that comes our way, because I have people that they check all the boxes. They have the success, they have the husband, they have the money, the amazing job, and they're still unsatisfied,
Yeah,
secretly depressed. And
yeah,
then you're like, then what?
yeah,
Why
then
is it?
what?
You
I've
should be,
achieved everything.
and then feel inadequate, because their friends are like, you should be grateful, because we have this society that's like, right? Like, you have to be content that because you have everything, apparently. But it's like the soul is the one that is leading us to find that purpose, to reach that purpose, to
Yeah,
be self-fulfilled.
yeah, yeah. I'm curious, like, how much of that is really, um, I feel like it can be scary for a lot of people who have built that life, like you said, I've spent all this money and all this time and all this effort to create this life that I was told that this would be a happy life. And then they get there and they realize, like,
This is not
what do
it.
I like? Yeah, this is not it. So what are some of the, or maybe just share with the audience, like, what are some of the ways that they can begin to explore of, okay, well, if this isn't it, what's actually true for themselves? How can they reconnect to their own knowing, and where can they find the courage to start to make those changes?
Well, one of the first steps is recognizing that they're experiencing that,
Hmm.
and that they have desires that are not fulfilled yet. So start asking those inner questions and sit with yourself, because the moment that you sit with yourself, you start realizing more things. And ask yourself, for example, if I had all the money in the world, if you don't have it already,
Hmm.
and you didn't have to worry about it, what would light you up? Who, what kind of people? Because as I said earlier, like we are into contribution with each other. And trust me, I have worked with people that sold incredible businesses, that got all the wealth, and they don't have to work anymore, but they get bored of traveling, they get bored of all the things, and it's like, what else? What next?
Yeah.
Because there's no purpose, and purpose comes from the soul.
Hmm. Yeah.
Purpose comes from like fulfilling that mission of the heart desire. The heart innately wants to connect, support
Yeah.
others, contribute. So, what is the way that you will feel in contribution with each other? Maybe it's through writing, maybe it's through dancing, maybe it's through speaking, maybe it's through supporting others. In what way, in what capacity? If you don't start asking those questions, and don't get me wrong, like when I said I found that this was my calling, it wasn't a straight line. It was
Right,
not a
right.
straight line. It was a journey in itself. So this is a journey, and ask for help, ask for support, ask for people that can guide you, because in my experience too, many of those blogs are not only mental, there are many impositions and other kind of like multidimensional cores and things that make us kind of not able to move forward, kind of like feeling blocked in a way. So look for help, ask those questions. If you still feel like there is nothing moving, just keep knocking doors till you find your answer. Because if you have a desire, it's because you have a mission. And if you're not feeling the way you want to feel because it's not fulfilled yet. And
Yeah.
just keep moving and moving and moving and questioning everything until you do.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. I and I guess I want to say too, I think it's important not to judge ourselves that, okay, maybe you went after something because you had the impulse or whatever, you believed what you were told and you went for the thing, and then you get the thing and you realize, oh, it's not the thing. To I guess just hold some grace, because it's like you said, it's not a, I feel like, the right perspective is to say, okay, well, what's next? Okay, I accomplished that. What
Mhm.
is next? Because it's true. I think we forget that we never fully arrive,
No,
right?
no, no. We're here to discover and to experiment things. And as long as you're curious and you're open, we're here for experimentation. And people are so caught up. Like I have younger people like, oh, should I do this? Like, should I really study this? I'm like, yeah. And if you don't like it, that in 2 years, that's fine. And they're like, what? Because we want to get it right. We
Yeah,
want to
I
get it
know.
right
Isn't that
from
the
the
truth?
very beginning, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to have to the route. And it's like part of the beauty of being here is that the routing and completely reinventing yourself and turning back like 360 degrees. And I laugh about it because like I love change. I love embracing change and I talk about my clients laugh, embracing the suck. Like I'm not afraid anymore of difficulties, but that comes from a territory, right? Like all the battles and all my experiences led me here. And I just want to share something with with the viewers and the listeners is that there no experience goes to waste. No experience goes to waste, good or bad, because it shapes you and it makes you and you become the person that you're here to become. We are in this journey of remembering, and in that remembering journey, we are becoming who we are meant to be. So we get to know more of ourselves, and we know now, right? Like older people, they just get to a point that just like unapologetic, and they're just like they don't have anything to lose. So like, why did we start behaving like that already? Because at the bottom line, there's nothing to lose on a soul level. Like the soul is eternal. We
Mm,
are here for a short ride, and why just not embrace all the experiences that come your way? Just like be in the moment, enjoy what comes to you, the people that you meet, align or not. If they're not so aligned, maybe there is a reason, there is a lesson there for you, maybe to shape your character, to build some resilience, whatever the reason is. Like if we can just embrace it with more openness, because I think part of many of us problem is that we want to get it right. And we want it Amazon Express. We want it now, now,
yeah,
now.
right. Yes, it's so
Yeah.
true. Beautiful. So what do you have available right now for the people who are interested in working with you?
So I have a free activation meditation that people can use. You can have the link that you can get an activation and you can experience that and notice how you feel and you can listen multiple times and what is there is codes and information that you have within yourself that depending on the person is going to activate some things probably faster in others and it's okay. It's just the beauty of it, the beauty of energy. And if you feel aligned, just reach out. I have a free consultation on my website. If you feel aligned, just reach out. We have a few minutes consultation and you'll see if it's the right fit for you. I am very straightforward. I don't like to fluff.
Hmm.
And if you tell me your situation and I see that I can help you, I will tell you. And if not, I will also tell you. And I love people that are really ready to live their lives because that's all what it comes to. Are you really to be present? Are you ready to be here for the ride and really enjoy it?
Yeah,
Comes
beautiful.
with responsibilities too. So are you ready for it all?
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Beautiful. Erica, thank you so, so much for being here and being on the channel. And to the viewers and listeners, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Um, Share this video with anyone you think that would benefit from Erica and her gifts and what she has to offer. And yeah, thank you so much, Erica, for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a great, great experience sharing energy with you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Much love, everyone.